What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Do You Do? I'm your co-host, Shrey Bay Bay. We got T Foxy Trav, Justin Jawong Dong, and we have two very special guests here. We have a friend back in Austin. He's one of our best friends we went to high school with, I went to college with. We're joined by his parents, Cynthia and Steve. How are y'all doing?
We're doing
Good.
great. Yeah.
Good.
How's it feel? New York, snowy week.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. I mean, seriously, we expect it. It's January. Hey.
It does add to like the mystique of
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
Gives a little.
And y'all are
winter
like cool.
feel.
You come to New York every 3 months just to have fun and hang out and see things.
We like New York. We lived here for a little while when we were y'all's age. So, yeah, home away from home.
Do you go to some of the same spots that you used to when you were living here?
Yeah. There's like a diner that we would always go to, but I think it's out of business now. So we've had to get a little more creative on our diners. So
Whenever I moved here, people will give me recommendations, like people that I worked with, and I looked up the places, and half of them were out of business because it was
yeah.
post-COVID, so none of them were
Oh,
there.
yeah. The hotel we always stayed at has closed down, but we had a singer that we liked, a performer in a band, and we went to him. We were here for Caroline's 21st birthday, so what's that? 8 years ago. We've seen him every single time, and now the place he played closed down.
Oh,
Oh,
What was the place?
Well, Rosie O'Grady's, which, I mean, nothing, but then he also played at the Playwright, and we went there last night, and they didn't have live music. COVID.
dang.
Yeah.
New York's not what it used to be.
Uh,
We've been disappointing y'all. Damn.
no, we found new places.
it's coming back. It's coming back. Well, the topic for today, what the fuck do you do when you're raising a family? So to set the context a little bit, we kind of want to go back. Where did y'all meet? How did y'all meet? Tell us like the beginning of y'all.
Origin stories.
Yeah.
we met in college. I was a sophomore. Cynthia was a freshman. Me and my friends were scoping out Chester cafeteria for all the new fresh meat. And and then as it turned out, a guy on my hall, his ex-girlfriend was Cynthia's roommate. And so we met at Chester cafeteria at the University of Texas.
Wait, so y'all met when you were scoping out people and like she.
Well, I did that every day.
That was one among.
What was your approach? What was your pickup line? How'd you break the ice?
It
I
was-
did.
Well, yeah, she drove it, but I knew through the eye connection that first time we ever met. But
Oh wow! So it was like almost an instant, you know.
I think we definitely did have an instant, We, like I wrote my aunt a letter saying, I think I've met the boy I'm going to marry. And then we have letters, like we broke up in college, but we found a letter with it his mom has where he said, I broke up with Cindy. I'm not sure why. It's not as much fun now. Like, hello?
Wait, so why did y'all break up?
Yeah, we were young.
Just
we had
young,
things
yeah.
to do and places to be. And
You
then,
thought you could do better without each other, but then you realized that's just not true at all.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So by the end of college, y'all were back together, dating more seriously?
No, not
Okay.
exactly. I went to Houston for law school, and he, then he realized, man, maybe she is a good catch. And
Yeah, no, it was, there's a lot of history there. But I mean, yeah, we broke up, and then when we got back together, it was a little more gradual the second time around. And then it was more of a slow burn, maybe. That's a good way to say it.
Did you move out to Houston to kind
Yeah,
of chase
so-
down the girl of your dreams?
Yeah, so like I said, I was a year ahead of her. So I had landed kind of my dream job staying in Austin, which was really hard to do in the mid-'80s. And so my first year, I would go, still date her, a college girl. And then when she went off to Houston, I'd go there on weekends and stuff, and I'd call, say, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm laying by the pool, studying. I'm like, maybe I should get a graduate degree.
Yeah, I mean, law school sounds pretty good.
So, yeah, I ended up going to Rice and got my MBA there. So we were, we got married, and the last year and a half of her law school and 3 of my 4 semesters, we were married. So
I love that. Yeah. So when y'all were in the process or planning to get married, did y'all ever talk about what you wanted in terms of a family, kids, that sort of thing, long-term goals?
not as much as we should have.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, I think we both knew we wanted kids. I was a criminal prosecutor at the time, and when we did have kids, our friends were kind of like, "Oh, I thought you said you were never having kids." I never saw it that way, but maybe we didn't give that air that we were, you know, the parenting type. Like Blake and Caroline were both, voted what most likely to be soccer mom and soccer dad in high school. Like not us. We weren't. That was not the
Even
air.
when we got married, like, oh, we're going to be these active parents and stuff. I mean, we may have talked about it, but it wasn't like, okay, this is next step immediately. We were pretty career focused, so.
We moved to New York City. We lived in a penthouse. We were dressed. Because he got transferred, and back in the day, big companies transfer you and pay you one big lump sum. So we just blew it out and spent it. Curtains, house hunting trips. What the hell?
Yeah.
We don't need that. Let's go live up at 72nd and West End, man. We lived in a penthouse. We were so cool.
Swanky.
That's awesome.
We were a little, not necessarily kid focused, which is so funny.
So what changed?
We were bad parents. We sucked. We were bad parents. We had kids.
Well, back up. I mean, while we're in New York, that's kind of when we decided, okay, this has been fun, but, I think our life is really going to be back in Austin, ideally. And so that was about the time we started, thinking seriously about having kids. And actually, Blake was conceived in New Jersey. But, yeah, so it was all kind of
Dirty laundry.
The start of being a parent kind of originated here.
Here?
So
Yeah.
That's
my
interesting.
point.
Okay, so you were living like the high life here in New York, and then quickly realized
Quick pivot.
This
Yeah.
is not maybe the most sustainable lifestyle that we want.
Did you ever
Yeah.
think about raising a family here, or was
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun when it's cold, but you see these strollers and the balls and in the street. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know how parents do it here.
I know.
In a city built off stairs, it doesn't seem conducive to walking around with a stroller.
Yeah, you're not doing a
know.
5th floor walkout with
No.
your two
Yeah.
strollers.
Okay, so after New York, you moved back to Houston or Austin? Okay, Austin. And
Right when we graduated and got up, we moved straight back to Austin. The day we graduated, literally. I graduated one week and he graduated the next. We were gone.
Wow.
We were always in Austin. Came here for a brief time, back to Austin.
okay.
Houston doesn't cut it. Yeah.
We love Houston, but Austin was more. We thought we were cool.
It's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool.
Cool.
So, I guess tell us about like what were the thoughts like when you knew you were going to have a kid? Like, were there fears? Was there excitement? Was there more of a conscious effort of planning once it was sort of becoming a reality?
Pure panic. What was going through your heads?
No. I mean, I don't know that we planned as much as we should have, but I mean, honestly, just what I've been saying, we were a little self-absorbed and this is not going to change our lifestyle. I'm back in my jeans. Blake's 2 weeks old. Y'all, Blake's born August 22nd. He went to the first home UT football game. Sherry, when's that? We didn't go to the game. We went to the Alumni Center. I mean, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Like September 1st, August 29th. Here he is in his stroller and his orange tennis shoes. Like, what?
I love it.
Did you put those headphones? Those like
Well,
big...
we were in the Alumni Center.
we didn't actually take him into the stadium.
But I mean, still,
we
y'all.
wanted to be
like,
part of the festivities.
and look, he survived.
Yeah.
He came
Hook
out
'em
okay.
horns. He went to, yeah.
Now he's going to every single game.
Yeah.
It rubbed off at a very young
Yeah,
age.
I know. I mean, we were not going to let that affect our lives. That was our attitude going in, right?
So it's kind of like a stubborn, like we're still going to be hip, cool,
Yeah.
going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, another story was we had some trip planned to like the Caribbean, St. Thomas or something like that, and we decided at the last minute we're going to take Blake. This is like
3
in
months old.
November,
Oh man.
and I just remember like having him like in a car seat on the sand with some contraption to try to block the sun from him, and
But
the
we-
flights were a nightmare. Like bottle of formula broke and all over some guy in a suit. It was, but afterwards we were like, yeah, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. We should have left him with Cynthia's mom.
What's it like flying with a kid for the first time? Because I see parents do it all the time, and I feel bad when their baby's screaming because I know that they know They scream, like, what is that experience like?
It brings you closer to God. You definitely pray a lot, like, please let this kid sleep.
So in the beginning, so trying to live your own lives, that sort of thing, did you guys ever figure out who was kind of doing what in terms of taking care of Blake?
No, he went to daycare full time. I supervised 60 lawyers. Steve's working at Dell in their heyday. You know, I mean, it was hard. And then we would have a nanny, and the nanny would throw parties at the house. I mean, we were a mess, and it was hard. We didn't talk about this story, but one of our first, like, this is ridiculous, before cell phones. So I get to the daycare to pick Blake up. Our kid's always the last one at daycare because I'm in trial. They're like, sit down. He's okay. And I'm like, don't tell me to sit down, he's okay. That's the last thing you said to a mother, what's going on? And they said, Steve is hurt. I'm like, what? They just called here from the mall. Steve's working at Dell. There's no remote working. He's like 3 days before Christmas. They call from the mall. Your husband has fallen. So he had fallen. Well, he was at Victoria's Secrets trying to buy me Christmas presents. He's got all these packages. He had been sick for like 3 days, like really sick, going to work, coming home. This day he decides, I'm staying home. I can't do this anymore. So he's like looking terrible. He goes to the mall. He's got all these packages. He goes in Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, I go in, and all of a sudden start seeing spots, and I'm like, I just pushed the stuff to him and said, I'll be back in a minute. And I was gonna go step outside. And I think I turned around and my head, hit the counter or something. And this is not too far after AIDS. So I just remember people with their hands behind their back, like staring over at me.
Nobody wanted to like help.
Yeah, nobody wanted to
No.
touch me.
Like
I just
December
laid down there.
22nd, 6 at night, 7 at night.
Yeah, people stepping over me to, pay. It wasn't. It
They
was kind
needed to get their Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
As I passed you.
yeah, I
This is
wasn't.
far
I
more
wasn't the only
important
one
than this,
running late. Yeah.
Yeah, when I get
my
there,
gosh.
I'm thinking, we're still, my hot husband, everybody's going to be jealous. Who's this guy? And I get there, and they hand me like all these packages. They'd kind of wrapped them for me, and out comes the security guard holding on to Steve. He looks like crap. He's filthy. He's got this turban wrapped around his head. Blood is coming down everywhere.
man.
They're like walking him to my car because he refused to take an ambulance. So he looks like I'm like a thief. I'm with a thief. He just got wrestled into the ground here. We go, it was terrible. We get home, 11 o'clock at night. Daycare worker takes Blake. Steve's boss calls. Where the hell are you? We need it. I'm like, I picked up the phone. I went loose on him. So, yeah, we did not. It was hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. That's a different era of, I feel like, work conditions.
Pre-Wi-Fi was a whole nother world.
Yeah, be thankful for that.
Also getting caught on your sick day at Victoria's Secret
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. It's probably a bad one too.
Yeah, it was all I could do to get up and get out there.
So y'all are balancing full-time, demanding careers. You got a young kid at home. Like, what did you start to figure? Like, what started to make sense? Like, were there sacrifices you had to make in your personal life? Like, how did you become the good parents, that we know and love today?
I gave up my career. Yeah, my dream job. All worth it. All worth it. But yeah, I mean, not that you can't work and be a great mom, but I wasn't in that mindset. And yeah. So that's how we did it. I mean, we had like some interim steps, and my biggest advice for a young working mom would be, man, if your kid's in daycare, I mean, I personally think daycare is probably better than the nanny because there's more eyes on them. But the director of our daycare, I'm having drinks with her Tuesday. She was at Blake's wedding. You've probably met her, Missy, real tall, blonde. That's not what she does anymore. But we decided that we got this advice from some friends of ours. If your kid's going to daycare, whoever's taking care of them, you make sure they are like your family. They love you. They love your kid. If anything happens, your kid's the first one out of there. And y'all, Blake and Caroline and I were all in her wedding. She's probably 12 years younger than us. We were all in her wedding, having drinks with her Tuesday.
Yeah.
She was at Blake's wedding. She's been texting Caroline. Yeah, make friends with your daycare worker.
Yeah.
like good friends.
Like
Yeah.
a real extension
Life,
of the family.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what role did your families play also? Because I hear that's a benefit of parents or extended
Right.
family. They can help take
Both
care.
our parents were out of town. Like Cynthia's mom and stepdad were in Houston. My parents were either in the Houston area or Dallas area. So they were helpful, and but definitely not being there, it wasn't like, hey,
Can't call them after
come
school.
over here
yeah.
now. But we did rely a lot on Cynthia's mom. She was really good, and my parents occasionally too.
During this time, my mom was much more, like me, buttoning my business, buttoning our business, wanting to. And then Missy, the manager of the daycare, y'all, she literally, we still were out and about, and she literally feels like our kids are her kids. And she not potty trained, she made took the bottles and the passies away while we were out of town one weekend. I mean, you gotta have help. And yeah, these day and age, you see young couples telling the grandparents, oh, you can't do this, you can't watch TV while you're babysitting, you can. Oh my God, y'all, no, don't.
Yeah.
Your parents raised you. Those are so minor. If the passy falls on the floor, or if your parents turn on the TV, or if they yeah, I mean,
Old jeans wife, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you need to have those people, and all that love that they feel and that concern they care for your kid is so much more important than, oh, the bottle temperature was a little too hot or cold. It's just,
So it takes a village, essentially.
it does. Whatever that village looks like, definitely.
I want
Got
to go back to something you talked about, Cynthia. You talked about having a team of 60 different prosecutors under you, and then that transition to being a full-time mom. What is that transition like? What does that feel like? How does that change you?
Fundraising. I was busy and I was active and I, had a lot going on. So when Blake started kindergarten, I was in charge of the largest elementary school fundraiser Austin had ever seen. And oh my God, it was the best party. I heard y'all talking about the gala or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right when Dell was at their heyday and there were a lot of Dell families there. And we had the best auction and and we raised so much money. And, then Robin Hood comes and they, weren't letting the schools take as much, we raised so much money for that school and then they didn't want us to be able to keep it. I mean, we paid for Spanish teachers. I was all in on that elementary school, making it the best it could possibly be because that's what I do. That's what I am. I mean, and, to this day, that's what I still do. So, yeah, I mean, in a way, it turned my ambition of being a prosecutor into my ambition of, helping the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody, because it sounded like you had your dream job as a prosecutor, and then you wanted to make this sacrifice for family. But for somebody today who is maybe trying to decide, do I keep my job? Do I try to do both? Do I give one up? How would you advise them on how to think through that? Because that's a difficult decision.
Yeah, it's so difficult.
You worked part-time for a while.
I did for about a year, maybe 6 months or a year.
Okay.
And maybe that helped a little. Find the right care for your kid and, the village. But, also, if you're running around with other people that have kids, it makes it easier. You can count on your friends. But, it's a lot to give up your career. And one of my best friends she was an electrical engineer, and she still goes in and out. She does consulting and in and out, and she's, it's not enough for her to be a stay-at-home mom. So if you can do that, if you have a career that's flexible enough to do that, to pop in and out, then, that helps. I didn't really feel like I did. Plus, I made parenting my full-time job. Yeah. I was obsessed with being the best parent I could be after that.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with you guys, and I feel like I know y'all like my sons.
Yeah.
That was my life goal,
Yeah. And it sounds like you sort of took that ambition towards your prosecuting career and applied it towards all these aspects within your family life.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Run the best damn family there is in town. Steve, I'm curious from your perspective, moving, I think part of the other side of that equation that comes to mind for me is the responsibility of then kind of being the sole breadwinner or the full-time breadwinner, moving from double income household. how did that feel in terms of your own career development and where you were able to focus? Like, it's a decision on both ends for y'all. So I'm curious how you navigated that yourself.
Right. Well, it helped that, Dell had done really well. This was, after the Dell stock had really risen. So, we were in pretty good, a lot better financial shape than we really set out in life to be. So that made it a lot easier. Because, if it was, so that eased some of that pressure that you're saying. So,
But you still worked a lot and had a lot.
Yeah, there's plenty of people I worked with during those days that, at age 40, like, I'm out, I'm retired, and, over the years, a lot of them would come back to work at Dell or, they end up working again. I wanted to make sure my kids saw me get up, go to work every day. So it took a little bit of pressure off as far as, what am I striving to be at Dell?
Sure.
I'm striving to have a balanced life and be an active dad and coach teams. And
How many teams?
Lots of them.
Like 30 or 40 different teams he coached
Wow.
for our kids. Yeah.
Wow. What's your least favorite sport to coach?
I don't know that much about it.
I find this so interesting. Like when y'all talk about raising kids, when it comes to picking activities for your kids, did Blake get into sports naturally? Was that something y'all pushed him towards? Like, how do you go about choosing like how their kids will spend their time?
Well, this was like one of the points we want to make to y'all about parenting, if you want to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, give it to us.
What you do matters. And if you do nothing, that matters. It's kind of like no choice is a choice kind of thing, right? And, I don't know that we were as intentional. And these can be intentional or unintentional choices, but obviously Steve loves baseball. Both of our dads were the president of Little League. Steve was the treasurer of Little League. That was what we knew. And so right off the bat, Steve put like Blake's little thing that he would like reach at like when he's 3 months old on the left side so that he would be left-handed. It's just what you know. So like
She's left-handed, so it wasn't completely off the wall.
But even if you aren't into, like if you're saying pick something or whatever, well, on the way here we were talking about it. You see like parents with little young kids, here, look at the phone, look at the iPad, look at the whatever.
Yeah.
Go for it. If that's what you want, they're going to be connected. That's what dinner's going to look like when you're 5. That's what dinner's going to look like when you're 10. Your kids are going to, if that's the habit you set, that's fine.
Yeah.
We had many a late dinner because the habit we had set was we're at baseball games or softball games or,
And we're going to eat dinner, we'd eat dinner together if it was at 8:30 at night or whatever. And we tried to talk, we did a good job talking and stuff. And I think that added a lot of, depth to our relationship with our kids and stuff, all those dinner conversations and such.
I feel similar. My mom kind of had that same thing beat into me as a kid because I just wanted to like take my plate and watch TV or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, other kids' house, they get to do that. And she's like, nope, no screens. Yeah. It's just the two of us, but we're going to sit down together and we're going to talk for like 30 minutes, even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
And it was like really nice. And I think it helped me enjoy meals as like a place to catch up with friends. It's like that was the habit that I learned. And I had some meals at y'all's house too. And it's like, this is really fun.
You all have, yeah.
Then we watched American Idol and it was great.
It's always great when you go to your friend's house and they have one of those places where they just take their food and walk around. Like, y'all do this?
This is incredible. Here? Learning like how other families run.
Yeah.
You don't get grilled at the dinner table. Yeah. But I want to like on that note and finding activities. Like a lot of my friends nowadays are starting to have kids, and one thing that I always ask them is like, what's it like watching like a tiny human learn the world? Like, what is that feeling like? What is that experience like?
Answering a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Y'all, we weren't that good at parents when we were little. I'd like to say it was our kids, but we weren't that good at parents. So, like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? One of our best examples is, we would sit Blake in front of the Lion King, and then when we're, in the middle of having a party and we're trying to make him do something or whatever, and he'd go away and never return. We were furious. What the heck did we think he was going to say? So, yeah, you see them learn real time, and it's like, wow. One day we were at the daycare. we got called. Here we are. We're all dressed up. We're like, we are still cool. Caroline got in trouble. She was 2 years old. She was potty trained. She's in the 2-year-old class. She gets in trouble because all the other kids weren't potty trained. So while they're changing diapers, she poured powder over everybody. Said, babies, babies. So we're there getting like, it's like, oh my God, it's usually not Caroline, it's Blake. And so we're up, and I swear, y'all, all of a sudden here comes this kid walking up from the creek that was at the daycare. She's covered in blood, and Blake had thrown a rock at her head.
Oh, Blake.
I mean,
It's a
You taught him
baseball
well.
training.
so yeah, what's
think
it like?
he
You
was trying
see
to
them learn these things, and it's good or bad. I mean, pay attention to what you see them learn.
So, on that note, how do you teach them to do the right things, but not overstep to where, like, you don't let them make mistakes and fail?
Touche.
Well, how do you do it? They're going to
Yeah,
learn.
I'd say when they're older, middle school,
Yeah.
they can be bigger issues, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like there's a few times kind of felt like there was a situation that could happen, Blake's thinking about this or Caroline's thinking about this. So maybe a preemptive strike, just to remind them, hey, that's cross the line. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So
Like, nip some stuff in the bud
Yes,
if you see it
there
as
you go.
potentially problematic.
yeah, I'm trying to think at a younger age, probably a little bit more, let them go and.
Tell them about Miss Verma. I mean,
yeah.
we're talking like, if you're talking little bitty babies, we probably don't remember that as much. But
Yeah, Caroline had a situation where,
like in elementary school.
yeah, kind of late in elementary school where, and I usually would drop her off at school because I think Blake might have been in middle school. Cynthia was dropping him off. So anyway, yeah, she had like some grade where she didn't feel like she got a fair grade on it. So she wanted to challenge the teacher, but she was scared to. So
She threw the flag, the challenge flag.
yeah,
Yeah, she
exactly.
wanted Steve to do it.
So she like wanted me to do it, and I'm like, well, let's talk through this. We kind of talked through it, and she formulated her thoughts, and I said, I'll go in there with you, but you need to approach the teacher and you talk to her. We went like before school. We got there early, and she goes in there and worked out like a charm. So
He stood at the back of the classroom, y'all. Caroline is crying, walks up to the front and talks to the teacher, and the teacher then was so responsive to that. That Steve was there for the physical support,
Yeah.
but she went and did the, intellectual part of it, or the, the hard part. But as far as like literally, like when they're littler, the examples we could use for you for that are our next door neighbors. Oh my God. They have 3 kids. The oldest is in 1st grade. The next one is like 4 and 3. Girl, 2 boys. So, I mean, this could be y'all like in a matter of years. Could be you, Justin, in a matter of years. And it is so much fun. But they are, let me just say this. They're like 6, 4, and 3. They can all ride a 2-wheel bike without training wheels. I mean, and it's not because their parents just let them, like in terms of a physical hurt.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Literally, the middle one, the 4-year-old, who is fine now, he didn't die from this, but our driveway kind of goes down a little, and we have a wrought iron fence, and we're all out there one day. He doesn't have a helmet on, and we're all watching him. He takes off down our driveway. He goes, y'all, doesn't know how to use the brakes. He slams into the wrought iron fence and came up with like marks across his face. And we're all laughing. His mom is like, you should have worn a helmet. Like, she wasn't at all like coddling. And that is definitely too many young adults coddle.
Yeah.
That is, you're not doing them any favors. You got to get over that. They will survive. Blake has a dog, Penny. One day he's like freaking out because Penny is looking outside. We're like, what is wrong? He said, the sun, it's going to hurt her eyes. I'm like, what? He's like, well, you're not supposed to look at the sun. It's bad for your eyes. Penny. Like, Blake, you got to stop.
Yeah.
That is, imagine raising a kid like that.
Yeah.
We're going to close all the blinds in the house all day.
Literally, he went and closed the blind.
No sun for you.
Uh-uh.
That is true. I mean, I saw that. I think my sister did a really good job with like my nieces in that regard too, because it was like, I don't have time to coddle you guys. Like we're busy. So if you're gonna like jump off a thing and then look at me for that response, like I'm not gonna mirror the worry.
Exactly.
Because if you mirror the worry, then the tears come. But if you're like, you're good, like laugh it off, it's like, oh, okay, that didn't hurt too bad. Like I can be a little more brave.
Where do you think that coddling stems from, like that increase?
Because I think you love them that much. I think you're obsessively loving them. I mean, like
and they're your responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to worry about.
I also I heard this on another podcast, but I feel like in today's age, like you just get so much information about how terrible the world could be.
Everything's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
Everything's bad for you.
So you hear like, well, like they need to wear a helmet because like so and so happened to this person in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe when we were growing up, it's like you knew about like what was happening in your neighborhood or your community, but you weren't aware of like everything that was happening all around the world. And it may not even be like it's more today. It's just you're more acutely aware of it.
Right.
Yes.
I could totally see that.
Yeah. I do want to ask, what was the dynamic like when Caroline came along? 2 kids versus 1 kid. Did it change at all?
Obviously, but I'm trying to think. That's a long time ago.
Well, I was thinking of, we had some friends from college come visit when Caroline was born, and, you know, a little playset thing. Again, you know, and Blake pushed the kid off. And to this day, that kid still doesn't, you know, I mean, it's so weird because I don't think it was Blake. I think it was us.
Yeah.
I really do. But you know what else I will tell you about it? If you think you have a difficult child, and there's a million books about that, one, read them, but which we didn't do. But for 2, it's not, I mean, that's a good thing if you have a kid that's as curious as Blake was. That's a good thing if you have a kid that is as inquisitive and physical and all that, because look at him now.
Yeah.
And he had to learn the lessons, you know, of what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we definitely had to set down some rules when I quit my job, and, you know, this is how it's going to be. And he learned to adjust to that. And by the time he was 15, I mean, y'all may know different than this, but you know, I think he knew how to follow rules, or he knew, I mean, he at least knew there was an expectation on him. Whereas like Caroline, I mean, we had some knockdown dragouts when she was 15 because we're trying to like tell her what she can and can't do. That was like, I mean, that was maybe even harder. You know, you learn if you have a difficult kid, or, you know, what you think is a difficult kid, you learn how to teach them.
Yeah. Rein them in.
Yeah. Or
That ball of energy.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
2 kids, back to the question of adding Caroline, 2 kids, two parents. It's a little bit more, you know, one-on-one coverage.
Yeah.
Gets a little tougher, I hear, with 3 kids, because then,
Got to play zone.
yeah, you got to go zone.
There's gaps in the
choice.
coverage. Well, I'm curious from that perspective, from like a family planning perspective, almost like, did y'all know you wanted 2 kids originally? Did you know, hey, maybe we want more? Did you want a boy and a girl? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely wanted a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
So after 2, you know, check, done that. But I don't know. We never really gave it too much consideration to have more, you know.
at the time.
Time, you know, later on we thought, you know, once they got to be like 6 or 7, you know, those are fun ages. It's like, yeah, we should have had more. But
It's like, we're
Yeah,
pretty good
we
at
do
this.
wish we had had more. Yeah, y'all, I mean, I sit here and say how bad of parents we were, but I mean, we are so close to Blake and Caroline. I mean, to y'all, you know,
Yeah.
and we do wish we had had more. They're the best thing in the whole world. Like, if you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. I mean, it's the best. I mean, and that's probably why we treat you guys like, you know, as close as we do, because we love having y'all around. We love having a house full. I mean, think about it. There's nothing finer.
Yeah.
So as like Blake and Caroline are growing up, like, what are some of those pivotal like age gaps, or like what are the pivotal ages of like 5, 10, middle school? Like the kids are starting to have full conversations. They're starting to like really have full personalities that you understand. Like you're almost like friends and parents. Like I'm just curious how that just evolves as a parent. It's like, how does your style shift? What does it feel like?
well, when they're like 2 or 3, and, you know, we got the little kids next door, so that's some of the experience I'm drawing off of. Tons of questions. Just, you know, what, why, you know, every answer is why, and things like that. So there's some patience involved, and see it for what it is. They're learning. And you come away talking to little kids that age, and they're like, man, they're brilliant. I mean, some of the things they say, ask, it's like, blows me away. So I think that's one, when they learn to talk. And then even then, they may not really, I can kind of see the kids in the neighborhood interacting, so that's the next kind of thing is peer pressure, things like that.
Yeah.
You start to see that. That's not really that big till probably middle school where you can really, or I don't know.
You're getting double dog dared to do really dumb stuff, yeah?
Yeah, or,
Well, when our next door neighbor went to kindergarten, I mean, she came home and knew more. And so then all the kids were riding the bike and they stopped. And one of the older ones, like house sits for us, like if we have a pet sitter, she may come during the day to let the dogs out while the pet, like 13-year-old or 12-year-old or whatever. So the kindergartner says, well, when I get older, I'm going to be the one to get to do that. And like a second grader that with her says, no, I'm older. And I mean, you could just see, it was kind of almost like the innocence. She did lose some of that innocence just in kindergarten. I mean, it was...
Yeah, the minute she went to kindergarten, like I saw them riding their bikes in the cul-de-sac, and she's over there like trying to lift her bike, like I could tell she was felt like her bike was a baby bike. It's too little. So I'd go over there and try to help her, but she had it up like as high as it could go. And I'm like, try standing up and pedaling when you ride. And so she started doing that.
Let's take like sports, because you coached Caroline and Blake. Like when I was growing up, like my parents never played sports, so they were never like yelling at me in the stands. But other kids, like their parents are like, "What are you doing?" Like, blah, blah, blah. Like they're getting on them and they're like yelling back, like, "Dad!" Like, and it's like brutal. But were you ever like that, where it was like, I'm trying to push you to do your best, and it kind of comes across as like, I don't know. I guess, what was your style when it comes to like getting people to excel?
I don't think I was that hard.
Okay.
I mean, for one, I was just kind of like a recreational experience. I mean, it's not like I have some stellar resume of athletic feats, But so it was more kind of for fun. And the things where I enjoyed, especially in baseball, was, keeping stats, and trying to get the most out of everybody on the team. A lot of people, you coach the 3 or 4 best players on the team, but in baseball, all 9 or 10 or 11 of them made bats. So it's if you want to win, do good, which I did secretly.
Well, Steve was always the head coach, and you did have to like compete. You had to like apply to get to be the baseball coach. And he had some assistant coaches that did not have the same style as him. So that definitely, I mean,
it's harder when you're an assistant, because then you kind of acquiesce to whoever the head coach is.
But you weren't usually.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to tell one quick story about him
please.
coaching Caroline softball. Don't even. So he was the coach of Caroline's softball team, the assistant coach, he will tell you, and the head coach of Blake's baseball team. The fields back up to each other. There was a set of twins. Blake and Caroline are only 16 months apart. There were a set of twins, a boy and a girl twin, that were on, the boy was on Blake's team and the girl was on Caroline's team. And so we are at a softball game, and we're beating the other team. They had never won a game. Oh no, the twins were not on our kids' team. They were on their opponents. They were their opponents, and so we're beating this other team. They had softball. They had never won a game. So the head coach, and Steve decide we're going to let their other team win so that the girls have a feel-good moment. Back to parenting differently with boys and girls. Myself, the other mothers and I, we're like, wait, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You would never throw Blake's game like that. The mother of the twin comes over and says to Steve and the other guy, hey, will you do that for my son's team? Can you throw your game against my son's team? I called the commissioner.
What a pickle.
I called
like
the
I
commissioner.
said, when you're an assistant coach, you acquiesce to the head coach.
I called the commissioner of baseball that night on my husband. She didn't answer.
Commissioner softball.
You left
Yeah.
a scathing voicemail.
Yeah.
I didn't. I knew better.
Oh man.
He threw the game. Would he ever throw Blake's team's game?
Would you?
No.
Yeah.
Without hesitation, no.
I'm curious because we've known Blake for a long time, and obviously we went to high school together. And Blake is a curious, adventurous guy who's always getting into shenanigans. What did we think we got away with back then that y'all always knew about when we were in high school?
There was something with Blake and Aaron driving through the campus that I don't think we ever fully got the grasp of, and I think Aaron's dad had to come, tow him out.
Oh,
Do y'all know this?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great time. Yeah,
Yeah.
they showed up at Michael Engling's man cave, and we all debriefed.
We'll let Blake tell you the full story when he's ready.
Yeah.
They found a new shortcut in Austin. They could have paved that road.
They were building bridges, and that's when I knew Blake would be an engineer.
That's true.
Yeah.
Literally building bridges in the woods to get a 4x4.
I do
through.
remember one day, like the middle of the day, Blake and Aaron went like adventuring into the woods or something, and then came back with like old furniture that they like put on the hill, like a couch and like a chair, and like everyone thought like, oh, this is so cool, whatever. And I think like the head of the middle school was like, where did y'all get this? Just put it away.
I feel so bad for like high school, middle school administrators who are just like watching kids grow up because like they just do dumb things all
Yeah.
the time, and you probably see such new things every day.
Now, what was it like when Blake and Caroline graduate high school and they're adults, and now they're trying to figure out the world, figure out what they're gonna do? Like, do you change your approach of I'm not gonna be as hands-on, or you try and guide them still? Kind of goes back to the question of like letting them make mistakes or whatnot. Like, how did you guys change your approach there, if at all?
Well, I kind of think, they both got into UT, and that was like a huge honor. So, we had always, you asked how we had changed our approach as they got maybe into junior high school, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I don't mean from a financial standpoint, but if you make good grades, you're respectful to us, we'll take you on this cruise, whatever. But with your friends, as these guys are looking at me, they know what I'm talking about.
The cruise.
The cruise. To whom much is given, much is expected. So then they go to college, they get in, they both got scholarships. We gave them that free reign, but we expected good grades, and we expected them to be like loyal to our family, to us, to our family events, good children to us as parents. We've given them the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So then when they got to college, there were definitely times we would say, well, we want to have a meeting. We'll meet you Sunday at noon at X and such spot on campus. Let's talk.
Okay.
Because you didn't like what you were seeing?
Just make sure that, their grades were good, or,
Okay.
Yeah.
whatever.
Like a good check-in.
Yeah, we needed to know that they were going to be self-sufficient, honestly.
It's hard to get through life for anybody between, age 16 and 25.
Yeah.
Everybody goes at a different pace. You have your wild periods, or, you can get in trouble, a lot of different ways. So, it didn't just stop, and especially with them being in town, we had the ability to have maybe get together on an ad hoc basis like that. But for the most part, I think we kind of let them do their own thing. We weren't like forcing them to come to our house on Tuesday night for dinner or
No.
anything.
My mom made me do some structure. The day I left for college, she's like, I'm going to let you do what you want, but you're going to call me every Sunday and every Thursday.
Oh,
And it's
funny.
like, still, I'm 30, about to be 31, and I still call every Sunday and every Thursday. And it's like,
that's
okay, I can kind
awesome.
of have my own life outside of that, but it's like, you got to have that check-in. You got to have that, like,
Yeah, that's perfect.
what's going on, how you doing, what's going wrong, what's going right. So, yeah, I think it's also really cool that both Caroline and Blake stayed in town, so you got to do
Yeah, and
that.
and I recall Caroline would come to our house to study. She had like some really big tests. She has her spot. It's like good mojo at that kitchen table or whatever. So she would come. And
more self-restraint there, maybe. You know, she was in a sorority. There's a lot going on. She probably knew if I get home and sit at that kitchen table, you know, parents will keep the house quiet. I can do my thing.
Yeah.
Little escape.
Do you feel like we were around a lot? I mean, you look
Yeah,
at
for
Blake's.
sure.
Oh, like too much? Well,
no, I think
were we around too much in college?
I think in fun ways, because I just remember we would go to tailgates and do stuff like that, and then
Well, we did that before you guys went to college.
Yeah,
too,
we
so.
didn't do it because of y'all, but no, we were already
as
doing
evident by the bringing the 2-week-year-old to an alumni center.
Yeah.
No, I felt like y'all were around in a good amount, and I guess from my perspective, because I wasn't your child, it was always more fun for me.
Yeah. But I mean, we've probably had hard conversations. I've probably had hard conversations with all of y'all about, you know, whatever, life or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want you to think of us as just the fun parents because we care. You know, that's the thing. I mean, and we were talking about this, like, unconditional love and what that looks like with your kids. You know, by no means are we the expert parents. We've tried really hard to be a lot better parents, but, you know, like unconditionally loving but not coddling, there's that fine line. And Steve said, well, it's the depth. Mm-hmm. It's the depth. And I mean, that's, you know, what we think about with you guys too. It's, you know, it's the depth of the connection, the depth of, we were at dinner, y'all, last week with all of the kids for Caroline's birthday. And we were talking about somebody and something, and somebody said, well, what would you do if your husband, like, did that to you or abused you or whatever? And Caroline's like, I'd call my mom. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good call.
That's, you know, just her instant reaction. And, I mean, that's, you know, that's the goal, I think.
I might call you too.
Call me. I would be there for you.
I don't know why, but at some point I had thought if I ever got into legal trouble, I would call you because you used to be a prosecutor, and then I know you would call my mom and dad. Because if I call my mom and dad, they wouldn't necessarily know what to do, like, legally. But I feel like if I called you, you'd be like, okay, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't talk about this.
Yeah.
And then you'd be able to relay it to my parents so they would come and then also maybe get the legal help that I needed. So you were my... Thankfully, I had to come down to this, but...
You were the first call from jail? That's an honor.
Hey, you know, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool because it goes back to, like, that story of the classroom of Caroline practicing self-advocacy, but knowing you were behind her and supporting and, like, I'm going to help empower you to do this yourself so that you can be a self-sustaining human. But you also know, like, we're always here for you if you need it. I think that's a really cool way to parent, to do that.
What was like, so we went to Blake's wedding very recently. He's married an awesome person. I've met Caroline's boyfriend. He's really great. What was it like seeing them date and getting to this point as parents?
I mean, we all know Blake's dated some people that are, it's better that he's not married to them. But,
Such a kind way to put it.
I mean, you know, when he started dating Lindsay, we knew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like y'all probably knew that too.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Lindsay is, I mean, she literally is so good for him. And, you know, I think he's able to be who he is, but she also keeps him reined in a little.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he respects and loves her enough that he honors that.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you offer a lot of guidance on, like, the type of people to pick or date or?
Yeah, how are conversations about dating with your kids?
Well, what I've always said, and I mean, this is totally us, so we're not Billy Joel and Christy Brinkley, because we don't have the drama in our life. We both dated people that we had drama, and I mean, yeah, drama's exciting, and I mean, obviously, like, I love the excitement and the drama of anything, but your marriage is not the place to get that. Life is crazy enough, whether it's the kids or the job or the career or the podcast or the whatever. No, the marriage has to be the rock solid, the absolute thing that you can rely on every single day, you know, that you know what you're going to get. Yeah, maybe it's not as dramatic to be screaming and yelling and then making up, but And so, I mean, Blake has said that back to me, you know, that was the best advice you ever gave me, Mom. You know, I don't know if he said that. He said it was good advice. No, but, you know, I mean, you want to be married forever.
Yeah.
But back to the kids, I think, you know, you let them pick, and, you know, there was only one incident I can think of where I remember telling Caroline, I really don't think this is good. You know,
This ain't the guy.
yeah. And it wasn't anything too far along, so it was,
But you told her, I don't say much.
yeah. I said, I don't say much, so listen.
Yeah.
Should
And
probably
she
listen
did.
more.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I've never heard her come back and say, I wish you
I
hadn't
think
said
what
that.
happened is she said, I'll come back to you in a week and let you know.
Well, that's a pretty good response.
Y'all seem really
Some
mature.
people would be like, don't talk to me about that. Don't tell me that. And then just,
I have said
do their
that to
thing.
my parents in this exact situation. Yeah.
Well, there's been plenty of those conversations too. Don't get us wrong. But
I mean, they're definitely not afraid to have a hard, deep conversation with us. And I don't know if that's, you know, if that's good or bad. I mean, we just had a little debate with Blake yesterday about whether we're going to Tomorrowland or not.
Like we as in all of you?
We,
or
all
him?
of us.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we are going to the Olympics, and Caroline and Ollie and Blake and Lindsay are coming with us. We're going to Paris. And so Blake's like, oh, this just times perfectly with Tomorrowland. And so Lindsay's like, yeah, been there, done that, Blake's wife. And we're pretty, you know, this Blake says it's one of my favorite things to do. We'll go for a day. And so we agree to that. We buy the tickets, Steve and I, flying into Amsterdam. We'll hop over to Belgium. And then the other night, in front of all 6 of us at Caroline's birthday dinner, he says, yeah, I think I'm going to get those 3-day passes. We're like, yeah, no.
Y'all have done music festivals before, though. You're built for this.
Oh, there's a difference between ACL
Okay.
and tomorrow.
no,
Yeah, and
I'm not going to camp.
yeah, you're going to camp
No
like
camp.
4 days.
No camping.
no.
Be ready to
And
rave and fist
so he
bump.
like, you're trying to control our lives. We go on vacation with you. We have to spend every minute with you. We're like, we're giving you the gift of giving you 1 day of Tomorrowland. He's like, so we go right back at
Oh,
each
that
other.
guy like
about
kind
it.
of deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
But it was pretty civil.
It was civil.
It
We
was a
all
very
took
civil
turns. Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, it was very civil, but
So where did it land?
2 days.
1 day.
One
one
day.
day.
One day full on camping and raving.
1 day. Blake
Lindsay
picks,
and I
Blake
rule.
picks the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to take the L on that one. That's
You know, I will say, I was actually talking about this with Killian. Blake was always the guy who was bringing people together. Let's go do this. Every now and then, it's like, that's not a good idea. Let's maybe not do that. But like for the most part, it is like it's actually a gem to have like that type of person in your
Yeah.
friend group who's like, guys, like let's all go do this. Let's go to this bar. Let's go like watch the Texas game and let's do this. And it's like, okay, great. And then like all these people, like he's so good at like having that energy and like, oh, like this person's in town, like I'm gonna invite him. Oh, like Shrey, like they're actually gonna get dropped off at this bus stop. Can you come with me to like go pick them up? And I'm like, sure.
I mean, he got 19 guys to fly to Guatemala on a
Yeah.
surprise bachelor party.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the whole loyalty thing, I mean, he's such a, you know, committed. So if you're coming in, I'm getting you with me or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the type of advice you would give parents today, knowing what you know?
I mean,
Stay off your phones.
yeah.
Okay.
With
Be,
your kids.
be engaged, especially with little kids, you know, when they're learning to speak and all that. I mean, we were coming back from Dallas one time. That's the first time we ever went into a restaurant and saw, like, you know, young couples with kids in strollers or you know, the baby seat or whatever turned upside down. You put the stroller in it.
Yeah.
And the parents are all just on their phones, like, you know.
What
Yeah,
you
you
do
don't do that.
matters.
Yeah.
What you do matters. The other thing I would say is, it doesn't matter. Like for us, we really, you know, push the education. It could be morality, it could be sports, it could be whatever. But you can always build confidence. And I really, really, really think no matter who you are or what your situation in life, if you have the confidence that you can and that someone believes in you, you can succeed. You can, whatever it is, you know, you can be happy enough if you're confident. It doesn't matter really about the other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do y'all think like makes a good parent? Y'all are the ones that are 30 years old that have been parented. What I mean,
I feel like it's hard to say without doing it.
Yeah, I'm ready to just make mistakes and figure it out, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
What, as a
Did you
parent?
hear that? Did you hear what Travis just said?
Yeah.
He's ready.
No. I was like, I don't.
I
I
heard
think
it.
he was
I think if I
emphasizing the make mistakes.
Yeah,
Not,
it's like
I'm
the
ready.
Mike Tyson thing where it's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and that's how I feel about parenting. It's like I could plan it all now and read all the books, but I'm like, I'm not gonna know what to do until it happens. I don't know.
Well, the reality is, like, when you start off, you really don't have any experience. I mean, when we took Blake out of the hospital to go home, we didn't know how to change a diaper. You know, one of our buddies was there and he showed us how to
did
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and then from then on, we're on our own. But I think, you know, you have three big influences as a parent. You know, obviously one is how you were parented, and you're going to walk away with that. Everybody's going to walk away with that, with, you know, these are things I'm super, you know, thankful for, and these are some things I'm probably not going to do or whatever, or not emphasize that maybe was emphasized on me. And also, I think your personality, you know, if you're not a hard ass, you're probably not going to be a hard ass parent, you know, maybe you will, but, and then also what's effective with your kids, you know, what do they respond to, you know, and how do you influence them to do what you want, you know,
Yeah.
everybody's a little bit different, so individual mileage may vary, but, you know, I think those are, you know, the three kind of big factors.
I love that.
Yeah. I like that too.
What are some of y'all's favorite stories about Blake and Caroline that either we know about and we're involved in, or we've never heard of before?
Well, Caroline, one of our funny stories was we're home from on our way home from Italy or wherever, Dallas airport. It's 11:30 at night. You know, I mean, that confidence thing can go a little too far. We're walking through, rushing to get on the last plane out of Dallas to Austin, and she goes through the turnstile thing that's, you know, like a emergency security type exit, and she tries to go around, and the security guard or whatever, police stops her, and she's on the outside, and we're on the inside. We're trying to catch this plane home. We're like, oh my God. She's probably,
It's
I
like,
don't know,
yeah,
10
we're
or
down
11
to,
years old.
you know, the last couple flights of the night. You
Yeah.
know, so the airport, most of the airport staff is like gone, except for the guy on the other side of this turnstile.
So I had to go out. We had to go outside the airport. I think we did have cell phones by this time. And so we go outside the airport, then all the doors are locked. We have to get on the train, you know, back to that terminal. It was ridiculous. Like, Caroline, what are you thinking? Yeah, so that was a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I can think of a Blake one. So when your kids are little, you know, they learn to talk and all that. But they'll also, the drawback there is they'll say anything. You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of filter. So one day we were in the grocery store, and we're like on aisle 3, and Blake's in the feet dangling from the shopping cart. And we pass a lady who's an older woman, kind of hunched over at the shoulders, a little bit pointed nose. And he looks at her and he says, "Are you a witch?" So I immediately like hightail it out of there, you know, and try to redirect the conversation. So we're a couple aisles down a few minutes later, and she must have had a pretty good sense of humor because she could probably hear us talking. She was like on the next aisle over, and she lets out the best witch laugh I've ever heard. Like,
So Blake felt validated. He was like, "It was a witch. I was right."
Thank God she was cool. That could have gone
I
south.
know, it could have been terrible. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Kids.
Kids say the darndest things.
Yeah.
They do.
Any last questions, guys?
Any questions for us?
Yeah, I still want to hear about what you think. Like, I mean, what did you like that your parents did? I'm super curious.
I love that they spent time with us. I think that growing up, we got raised pretty tough, and there were things to what you spoke to, Steve, like things that I would take, things that I would leave behind. But I think that the biggest takeaway was like they were always there, whether it was good or bad. They were like a constant presence, and that is definitely something that I would want to impart if I ever had kids. Just being able to
Be engaged.
yeah, to balance my life so that I can spend the time, right? If I'm always at work, then I don't have the time. No one, like, when I'm gone, no one's going to be like, oh man, he worked so hard at his job, right? It was like, you're a good dad. You were there. So I just want to have the time.
Yeah, I think like one of the things I really appreciated that also like I've seen bleed into my own interactions is my parents didn't treat me like a kid. Like they were willing to have real conversations and give real answers, and we could actually get into like debates and topics and like, oh, what'd you learn in school today? Let's actually talk about it. And so I never felt like I was talked down to, and they were always really like treating me like an adult. Like my dad took me on like a work dinner when I was like 13. I was like, oh my God, there's like a bunch of lawyers at this table. I ordered like some weird fish I'd never heard of and hated it, but I still felt it felt cool to be included at the table.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't pushed to a kid's table. And then I think from like a mentality, like sure we've all talked about this on the pod, but like there wasn't an expectation that I was like the best or winning everything, but it was just like the expectation that I tried and I gave it my all. And so the only times I really got in trouble were like you gave up on that play or you threw a tantrum in the middle of the game, and like that's not how you go about things. And so I thought that was helpful just from like a growing up perspective.
Yeah. I would say kind of similar to that. Like, I feel like, one, I am glad like my parents kind of had like some limits on like TV and video games. Like, I think we were like allowed 30 minutes a day, and she encouraged us to like read, or like I like playing with Legos and stuff. And so I feel like maybe some of my like creative side kind of came out of that. And then also like the neighborhood we grew up in, like we were just always playing games with other kids in the neighborhood. And I was there over break and was like, this was a really cool environment because like everyone was around the same age. There would just be like huge parts of the day where like I don't think my mom was like necessarily knew exactly where we were, but we were just like out and doing fun stuff. So I really like that. I think my mom and dad set a pretty good expectation when it came to school or sports or music of like work hard and do your best. If working hard and doing your best truly is like you got a C- or something, like we're not going to be mad at that. We're only going to be mad if you didn't do your best.
Yeah.
But like figure out what you need to do, improve, and like and like I think they also made it pretty well known of like there's a lot of like opportunities and advantages we're giving you. So do not take it for granted because other people don't get it. So I remember she gave us that talk in like high school or college of like, I feel like maybe you guys are taking this a little bit for granted, and that's not fair to us because we're doing a lot for you guys.
Right.
And so it's definitely like a little bit more mindful of like, okay, yeah, like this is a lot of privilege we've been given. And I think like kind of going to what you're saying of like, if I were a parent, I think the confidence thing is something I would really hone in on of like I think I have a tendency to like beat myself up over things. Like I would want to be there and kind of build that confidence up for a kid.
I think that's a really important part of being a parent. Is, kids need confidence. They need to feel like, they're good at something. They're loved. Just they can rely on you.
The funny thing is, Shrey, I mean, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, well, your parents had it easy. You were good at school, you were good at sports, and you were good at music.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that you're not the most confident guy in the world. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what's not? I mean, you've been a great son. You're a great guy. Like, I don't understand.
The stud.
Well, I think it's just
I mean, MVP of the high school basketball team. I mean, come on.
like I think
Jabberwocky.
I think I would just calibrate. Like if I had a kid who was like me and who's like really hard on themselves, then I wouldn't be like hard on them. I'd be like, hey, like have some fun. Don't take life so seriously, that sort of thing. Like I remember in college, like I wasn't doing like super great at the very beginning, and I called my mom like, oh, I did so bad on this like exam or whatever. She's like, well, how are you doing? Like, are you like okay? Like, are you like mentally doing okay? Like she actually didn't care about the exam. She just wanted to know if I was doing okay. So I feel like I would take somewhat of a similar approach of like, if they're gonna just beat themselves up, I don't need to hamper on them again. It's more like have a different type of presence.
We had that for me. Like my dad we always talked about like coaching people hard, right? There's like tough love and then there's coaching people hard. He was always talking about like coaching people hard, where he would be stern with us, but he would be stern because he knows that we can do better. And if we're not doing the things that we practice and doing the things that we're supposed to do, like he would get on us.
Yeah.
But it's because like he's seen us do it before. So I think it's like instilling that confidence is critical, and there's a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah.
I'll probably coach my kids hard too.
Oh, you would, huh?
My mom was not a hard coach.
I'll be a
Let's
little
have fun.
I'll be a little bit nicer because it's 2024. But yeah, I think I really appreciated how the way that I break down problems is from my mom and dad, and like the way I approach big scary things, it's always like they would always drill into us like, "What's your plan? What's your plan?" I'm like, I don't have a plan. I'm 6. But now I think about it as we go through life, right? I'm married now. We might have kids at some point. Like, want to do better careers. Like, how do I take this big scary problem and have a plan to break it down? And I always like it burns me to say that that's my dad, and I really appreciated how he coached us up hard. But I got to
Coach you hard.
You're gonna be yelling at your kid. What the you doing?
Yeah,
Shut up, Dad.
I'm spending all this time
What's
throwing
your
balls.
plan? I'm 6. I think we are out of time.
I think we are at time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome conversation. Thank you everyone who was listening. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff.
Call your parents more.
Yeah.
Call your
Shout
boss.
out Blake. Shout out Caroline.
Thanks for being good sports, Blake and Caroline.
Yeah, sorry.
Blake will be here next week for the rebuttal episode.
Yeah, they really are the best kids, I promise.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. Take it
Thanks,
easy,
y'all.
everyone.